Hi, Joseph Carbonaro here from GetGround in conjunction with Beach Holdings. And today I'm going to be myth-busting some of the common misconceptions about buy-to-let property. The first question, stamp duty and land tax, SDLT, or just stamp duty to most people here in the UK, are the costs higher for limited company purchases? Here at GetGround, we serve clients that are primarily buying for investment, in such that they're letting their property out to a third party. And in that case, SDLT is exactly the same, regardless of whether you're buying in your personal name or in a limited company structure. Whatever your percentage is going to be exactly the same, £5,000 here, £5,000 there. This is also true if you're a first-time buyer in the UK and plan to let out the property. The rate of relief offered by the UK government from 2017 to first-time buyers is only applicable if the intention of the purchaser is to actually occupy the property. Therefore, if you're buying a property for investment, if you're buying it through a limited company or in your personal name, and again, the specific purpose is to rent that property out to a third party, your stamp duty is exactly the same. Cool, so stamp duty, land tax. Are the costs higher for a limited company purchase? As always guys, please seek your own independent taxation and legal advisory whenever making decisions about buying investment properties. So, to answer the question, GetGround primarily serves clients who are looking at buying investment property. And the definition of that is buying the property for the specific purposes of renting that property out to a third party. In this case, stamp duty is exactly the same as if you were buying property in your personal name. So there is no difference, provided you are going to be renting that property out from a stamp duty perspective, regardless of whether you're buying the property in your own personal name or in a limited company structure. This is also true for both UK and non-UK residents. This is also true if you're a first-time buyer in the UK and you plan to let the property out. The rate of relief offered by the UK government from 2017 to first-time buyers is only applicable if the intention of the purchaser is to occupy the property as his or her primary residence. So, if you're looking at buying an investment property, there's no difference in stamp duty. Cool, so the second question. Is it expensive to set up and run a UK limited company structure? I think traditionally speaking, when you set up a company structure, it used to be quite a lot of work. People typically needed accountants, tax advisors to obviously deal with the company's house directly. You might need a mortgage broker, a bank manager to set up the company bank account, a lawyer to put into place legal documents, and of course, whenever you involve 3, 4, 5 different parties in any one transaction, it obviously becomes a lot of hassle and it obviously becomes very, very expensive. But here at GetGround, we set out to effectively merge all of those parties into one place and set up structure and do the ongoing management and accounting of limited company structures for a very cost-effective price. So we charge, as of this moment in time and until the end of September, £99 plus VAT to set up, structure the company, put the bank account in place, and then to do the ongoing running of the company on a monthly basis is £20 plus VAT. And that's for all your accounting, tax returns, tax filing, the company secretary, kind of anything to do with the ongoing running of the property, so bank accounts, onboarding to our smart online platform, access to our mortgage partners, and help and support around running the company from the company secretary as well. So the answer to the question is it can be expensive if you do it kind of the old-fashioned way, but through using GetGround we make the process extremely fast and extremely cost efficient. Cool. So the third most commonly asked question that we get is it difficult to obtain financing? So most people are referring to mortgage finance through a limited company structure. As with everything related to finance, please do seek your own independent taxation and legal advice wherever you can. Traditionally speaking, I think there's a lot of misconceptions around sourcing finance for a limited company structure. The answer to the question is it doesn't need to be difficult, but you do need to be aware of certain things. Trading companies, it can be much harder to source finance for a buy-to-let through a trading company. There is typically a conception that you need at least 3 years of annual statements in order to be able to do that. If you set up an SPV, which we can do for you at GetGround for £99 plus VAT, which is an offer that runs until the end of September, we create the optimum structure for mortgage finance. One thing to be aware of is that mortgage rates for limited company structures have traditionally been higher for buy-to-lets through a limited company structure than buying properties in your personal name, with a difference of about 0.5%. So generally we see an average of about 2.5% on a buy-to-let mortgage in your personal name, whereas generally we see about 3% for a buy-to-let mortgage in a limited company structure, sometimes 3.5% dependent on your circumstances. Last year in the UK, there were 85,000 buy-to-let properties bought, and 41,700 of those were bought through a limited company structure, which actually makes it the fastest growing sector of the mortgage market in the United Kingdom, bar nothing. So what we expect is that with more lenders entering this market, because it's proving to be very lucrative for them, we do expect to see mortgage rates coming down. So is it difficult to obtain financing? Provided you set up and structure the company in the right way and get a good amount of support from the people that are helping you with financing, no, it's not difficult to source financing at all. Cool, so the fourth misconception that we commonly get told about or get asked here at GetGround is it harder to sell a property that is contained within a limited company structure? And the answer to that is no. It's exactly the same if you're looking at buying the property. There's no difference between buying that property from Mr. and Mrs. Smith or buying it from Mr. and Mrs. Smith Limited. The process is exactly the same, and it's a normal conveyancing process. Now, many people would argue, and certainly we would argue here at GetGround, that actually selling the property is arguably easier if you have a limited company that's been set up and structured in the right way. And that's because if you have one property per limited company, a full and complete set of accounts, a full and complete suite of legal documentation, and an inoffensive or neutral name, you actually have the ability to sell your limited company structure. And what that means is to sell the property through the mechanism of selling the shares in the company that owns it. There are two big benefits to doing just that for the investor, and one, I suppose, for the buyer, which is for the investor, there is a lower rate of capital gains tax for the sale of shares as opposed to the sale of a property. And the second, for an investor, is that they can benefit from something called a price advantage. And I'll explain that in just a second. For the buyer, the big benefit for the buyer in this case is that SDLT does not apply when we buy shares in a limited company structure, which means that someone wouldn't be expected to pay stamp duty if they bought the shares in a company instead of the purchase of a property. Now again, what that means for the investor is that there's a strong likelihood that they could sell that property, or sell that company structure I should say, for more than they would be able to should they sold the property directly, taking advantage of maybe a split the difference situation from a stamp duty perspective. Again, I'd always argue that you should seek independent taxation and legal advice wherever possible, particularly when considering buying investment property.